So today we have an exciting presentation coming from the LEED certifiers, and the company is Bisagni Environmental Enterprise, and we have Alessandro Bisagni and we have Francesca Galati, and they will be talking about how a global luxury retailer became the first in the world to achieve a gold rating under LEED version 4.1 O+M green building certification. So a little bit of introduction about the speakers. Alessandro is the founder and CEO of B Incorporation. B's missions is to leverage visions to do good, educating corporations about tangible ways to build, renovate, and operate spaces sustainably. He has an international team across different countries, 12 offices. It's a LEED proven provider, and it's the top 15 LEED consultancies in China, as recognized by the GBCI. The number of projects exceed over 300. That green building project, he has received a number of recognition and award, and it's been featured in press such as the South China Morning Post as a 2017 timekeeper. Anyway, he's a very well-known person in the LEED certifications, and it's great to have Alessandro here in this webinar. And Francesca is the principal and managing director for the region of Europe, Middle East, and Asia as well, and the Americas. Sorry. So it has the office. It manages and coordinates the offices and regions. So a very strong personality also, Francesca, and it's great to have her here. I know that she's always very busy traveling between countries. So thanks, Francesca, for being with us today. And she's also a professor at the Savona campus and the University of Genova. So quite an international personality. And she's Francesca. And then who is Wattics? Well, probably at this stage you know about us, but Wattics is a cloud-based energy management and analytics provider. We have hundreds of different partners. Normally our value-added resellers, as we call them, or partners, are ESCOs, energy consultants, facility managers, auditor, utilities, and in different countries. So we really work in 52 countries globally. We are based in Dublin. We have also an office in Berlin. We have another office in Italy, a small office in New York. So we operate as a distributed team across different countries, and this is in order to provide customer support and training across all of our partners. So this is Wattics. Any questions that you have during the webinars, please use the chat. At the end of the webinars, we will go through all of the questions and try to answer as many as possible. Amy will be with us at the end of the session to go through the different questions. Thank you for attending. It's great to have you, so many, participating in this webinar. I hope we're doing the right things, and you're still enjoying all of our webinars. I know that people keep on coming, so it's a very good sign. I wish you to keep well and stay safe. The corona is still around. Many countries are going in the right direction, so we have a decrease of cases, which is great. Some of the countries are still reopening to business again. So we are certainly, the lockdown is having a positive effect, and hopefully this period will be over soon. But thank you for attending. And the last thing that I want to say, it's quite important. If you wanna follow B on social medias, they are very active on different social media. Here you can have the LinkedIn the company page. You can follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and all the different social media, and also of course their website. So please if you get in touch with them, for green buildings and everything, or to partner with B, I think they would be very open to collaborate with any of you guys. Okay. Said that, I leave now the the space to to Francesca. Hello, Francesca.
Hi, Antonio. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for joining. I'm gonna stop my video and mute myself, and I will also stop my slides. So let me just stop sharing the screen. No, okay, and I leave it to you. So okay, so that's it. Let me see if I'm still sharing the screen. Am I still sharing the screen? I don't think so, Francesca.
No. It's our screen. So then if it's fine for you, I can start.
Okay,
so, well, Alessandro, that's my business partner, is a real gentleman. So he gives me and leaves me the honor to start the presentation. So I'm going to just recap a short information about our company, Incorporation, that was founded in 2009 by Alexandra. We just celebrated our 10th year, our first 10th year anniversary. So initially we started the business with Alessandro in Asia. I joined the company a couple of years later and concentrating the efforts initially in Europe, Middle East, and of course, America. And now, so 10 years after, thanks also to our other partners that are part of Incorporations, we have 12 offices and over 50 people working with and for us. So we can go on the next slide, and we can then see which is all about. So sustainability is our scope. So we're focused on this, and we support different kinds of projects. You can read what is our mission, and mainly is to offer sustainability services to improve projects, social, environment, and economic impact all over the experience that we have. So I would go then to the next slide, and I would like to underline what Antonio already said. So which are our biggest achievement in our company. So the most important is the fact that after an audit, we have been recognized as LEED proven provider by GBCI, that is the third-party certification reviewer for all the LEED and not LEED projects as well. And we are also awarded in the top LEED service providers. That's quite a special achievement. But beside that, of course, we are also gold member of USGBC and keystone member of IWBI. So thanks to this, we can also give to all the projects that we follow special discount on the LEED and WELL certifications. Considering the fact that one of our main core of sustainability is related to retail, we're also part of the LEED user group for retail, that is the biggest organization for all persons and companies involved in retail. Beside that, we're also part of LEED steering committees. We were part of the LEED International Roundtable, and we're also part of local Green Building Council in different regions. And what I would like to focus is the fact that we try always to be leaders in our activities. And here you have a little bit of experience on where we were the leaders. So we certified the first LEEDv4 project in the world. We certified, and I'm very proud of it, the first European city with the LEED for Cities new protocols, and the third one in the world, and the topic of today. So we did certify the first LEED existing O+M interior, in this case retail project of the world. So going on the next slide, just a couple of information on which are our services. Of course, everything is related to the main core, that is the green building consulting. And beside that, we had to add during the years all the other activities that are necessary in order to support our clients in the best way. So beside of the green building consultancy, that is mainly for the international certifications like LEED, like WELL, Living Building Challenge, Reset, and many different ones. Then also the monitoring, that is what we're going to discuss today. So how to monitor data that are important in the sustainable world, and of course testing and commissioning the systems. And then the last very important part that is always discussed on sustainability, that is related to green material solutions and topics. So I will go then to the next slide, and I will concentrate the discussion of today. So today we're gonna discuss about retail and the retail world. So we are, I would say, the company today with the biggest number of projects per countries. So we are working on over 30 different countries in the world for over 30 brands. The majority of the brands are high-end luxury brands. And we have certified already, so that's the great achievement, already over 200 retail projects. And we have the same number of ongoing projects at the moment. So again, our leadership in the field, it's a global leadership. So we certified the first LEED Starbucks roasteries in Asia and in Europe, the first Starbucks store in China as well. And then the first LEEDv4 Platinum stores in Europe and in Japan, and also, to be precise, also the first Platinum Retail V4 project in the United Kingdom, and of course, the topic of the day. So the world's first LEED existing retail project with the new version 4.1 using the Arc platform. So let's go on the next slide. And discover together which is the brand that took the decision together with us to start this journey. So Prada. Prada is a company that we work with since many years. So our business relationship started in 2014 when we certified for them their new production center in Italy, next to Florence. And after that, we took the decision to apply the LEED standard all over for their retail new projects. So using the version IDNC, so interior design and construction. So we didn't do it only for the main brand, that is Prada, but also for the other brands of the Prada group. That is, as you can see in the slide, beside Prada, we have Miu Miu, we have Marchesi. Marchesi is bars and restaurants, and then Church's, of course, the shoes. So step after step, we enlarge our scope of work that started with the consultancy for LEED certifications, and then we enlarged that, including also the monitoring of energy and for some projects also air quality for all over the projects, mainly in the APAC region, so in Asia, and for retail projects and for offices, and also for the main headquarter office based in New York. So getting on the next slide, it's obvious that when we had the chance to test for GBCI, the LEED version 4.1 O+M interiors before the official release, then we took the decision, of course, to apply and start together with Prada this journey, picking up Alexandra House as the official test. So before the version 4.1, the operation and maintenance protocol was available only for complete buildings. So everything that was a part of the building, so the original interior protocol that applies for commercial interior projects and for retail projects, was excluded. So the new thing that was available thanks to the release of the version 4.1 O+M was the possibility to include all the spaces that can be certified with the new construction on interior version, also with the operation and maintenance version. So that gives us the chance to start discussing about commercial interior, and in this case, retail projects. So what LEED requires is to certify a project under the operation and maintenance, and then you are request to keep the certification, so recertify the project, because as this system is related to the ongoing operation, it cannot be like una tantum, like what it happens when you instead design and construct a project and then you get the certification at the construction, at the end of the construction. So let's go on the different slide and let's discuss a little bit more which were the available and which are as today the available different protocol that you can use and the new one. So on the main row, you see all the different protocols that were available and are still available as today. So BDNC is related to building design and construction, so interior buildings design and construction or major renovation of interior building. Then interior design and construction for parts of building, could be offices or retail projects. The regular operation and maintenance protocol that was applied before only for interior buildings, and then two other protocols very specific, the ND for neighborhood development and the homes for residential below 4 floors. So the new thing is now connecting two systems and then creating the operation and maintenance protocol applied for interior projects. So let's go on the next slide and let's go more in depth about how the certification in this case works. So the new LEED boundary gives us the chance to have two different kinds of projects. The project that we apply for, that we want to certify, can be an already certified project or a non-certified project. So let's start with the most difficult one, or the average one, so the non-LEED certified project. So what do we need to do is that we need to first of all fill in and all the LEEDv4 prerequisites, because without the prerequisite we cannot apply for a LEED certification that applies for every kind of protocol. Then when the LEED prerequisites are confirmed, we can go to the Arc platform, and I will discuss this more in depth, how we can get the points and the credits on the LEED certification that will give us the score of the project. And then you will get the LEED certification for the operation and maintenance protocol. If instead the project is already LEED certified, and it can be a LEED certified project under the version IDNC, so that means that the certification that the store or the space achieved was related to the design and construction of the space, or it can be an operation and maintenance project that have been already awarded with the first time LEED operation and maintenance certification. So the only main difference is that this path has one step less. You don't need to fulfill and to show that you can have all the LEED prerequisites already confirmed. And why this happens? Because this is a step that if you already achieved a LEED certification, you did it at that time. So that would be doing the same things the second time, and it doesn't work. So let's go to the next slide and let's get more in depth with which are the different categories that the LEED certification version 4 operation and maintenance has in place. So we stay with the usual structure of every LEED certification, mainly with 5 categories: energy, water, waste, transportation, and human experience. You can also see the weight that every category has in the overall LEED strategy. So as you can see, energy is the most important one, and this is quite obvious. But the most important row that I would like you to concentrate on is the row below that explains which are the data that you have to share in order to get the points in the different categories. As you can see, it's ongoing energy monitoring, ongoing waste monitoring, ongoing water monitoring, ongoing waste and waste audit, transportation survey, and ongoing air quality monitoring and ongoing survey. So the majority of the data that you need in order to get the certification are related to the ongoing monitoring. And this is, I would say, one of the big news into the LEED certification world. So let's go to the next slide, and we get back to exactly what I said to you before. This is a short recap in which you can get all the information about which are the LEED prerequisites, and if you have a little bit of an experience, you can recognize them because they are part of the LEED operation and maintenance protocol. So those are the prerequisites. Then once you fulfill all the prerequisites, you go to the ARC platform, and where you will have to measure the performance of your own project, and you will get the points over there. So you can get up to 90 points. This is a little bit different compared to the other LEED protocols that gives you the chance to reach 100. But anyhow, you can get up to 90 points in the 5 different categories, and then you have the chance to earn 10 additional points called in this protocol base core credits if you want to increase the certification level of your own project. So as you can probably know, the certification that LEED gives is related to 4 different levels. It can be certified, it can be certified silver, it can be gold, and it can be platinum. And the certification level is due to the number of points that you achieve into the procedure and the certification strategy. So let's go on the next page, and let's focus on which is the topic of the day. So we want to show you how we did manage to certify the first project in the world using the ARC platform, and how we did integrate the Wattics platform with the ARC platform. And the ARC platform is the one, of course, owned by GBCI, so the LEED certification. So let's go to the next slide and get a little bit of information on the case study, so then you know what we're talking about. So the project is the Alexandra House project. So it is located in Hong Kong, downtown Hong Kong. You have the gross floor area, so almost a little bit more than 1,000 square meters. And then you have the information on the services that we did for the project. So beside the consultancy, of course, the monitoring, and that's the part that we want to discuss. So let's go to the next slide to have a little bit more information. So then you know that it's a 2-floor project, and then you can see here an overall of what we did for every category. The most important thing that you have to put in mind is the performance period. So the performance period for a LEED O+M certification, it is related to 12 months. So it has to be 1 full year of monitoring or getting data about these 5 main categories for a project. So in this case, it started in November 2017 and it ended in October 2019, but then we got 1 additional month for collecting all the information. So you can see what we did in energy, what LEED requires for energy. So mainly, the most important thing is the real-time energy consumption monitoring, the one that we will discuss. Then we did to do the ASHRAE level audit 1. Then current facilities requirements and operation and maintenance plan, and the fact that no CFCs were in the HVAC systems. Then, of course, water. Almost, this is a specific topic for this project, but in this case, there was not outdoor water used. So not everything that was outside of the building and of the space. And water use reduction from fixtures is what LEED requires. Transportation, it's a survey. We will see what it's all about. Waste audit again, and human experience is the other topic in which we had to install air quality monitoring real-time systems, and of course get some information on cleaning. But how did we integrate all this information, all these data with ARC? Let's go to the next slide and let's find it out. So the way we did it was integration in between the platform that Wattics created and the ARC platform that LEED created. So what did we do? So first of all, we had to install, we're talking now about energy. So we had to install energy meters, more than one in this case, because the project was quite big, so over 2 floors. And every energy meter was connected to the current transformers that were able, in the electrical main panel, have breakdown on the different HVAC, lighting, plug-in loads, and consumption, everything that has a consumption above 10% of the total consumption of the store have to be registered and metered. So the meter sends data to the cloud-based energy management platform prepared by and created by Wattics. So that collects all the information that are getting from the energy meters. And then, and this is the big thing, and then it's able to push all these data directly into the ARC platform. So in this way, all the information about the store can reach immediately and get live and real-time the ARC platform. That is the platform that we use for the certification of the store. So let's go on the next slide and let's recap which are the positive and added value aspects that the platform created by Wattics can give to the energy category, and of course to every kind of LEED projects that want to achieve this kind of certification. So what Wattics does supports not only the prerequisites, but also the 2 prerequisites, but also a credit. So the fact is that thanks to the platform that Wattics created, we are able to collect the real-time data from the energy meters. We are able to identify the energy efficiency measures for the ASHRAE Level 1 energy audit. Then we can analyze, and it's very important not only for LEED, but also for the brands that decide to get into these details, the energy consumption values and the energy saving, very important. And then the added value for us. So import data into ARC and then have monthly energy data reports. And of course, what is important for the certification, meet the prerequisite and credit requirements that LEED has for this kind of projects. So let's go to the next slide. And let's see a bit how the certification works. So this is the result of the LEED certification that gives you all the information on every category. So if you are nasty enough to do the calculation of every category, you can see that the sum of every category is 57, and that's fair, that's correct. And then you have to add the 10 base score points that we applied for in order to reach the 67 number that is related in the LEED certification level to a gold certification for this project. So we have reached, when we did the certification, the gold certification level. But let's go to the next slide. Alexandra was right. Let's discuss a little bit just a few information for you to have an idea what we're talking about. So this is the list of prerequisites. As you know, if you have experience on LEED, you can recognize them. So these are the usual prerequisites for operation and maintenance certifications. It's a bit all about every aspect that covers, and this is related not only to what the project has at the moment, but what the project wants to put in place. And this is related to policy and the way the space will be used. But I would not spend too much time on prerequisites, because this is the base and of any kind of LEED certification. I will go on the next slide to discuss a little bit more about energy. So as you have seen from the slide before, energy is the most important category inside this certification and inside every LEED certification. So due to that, we managed to get for this project 20 points over the 33 available. You can see it from the line at the bottom of the page that gives you the recap of the project. So you can also see from this slide that LEED every time benchmarks the value of the project with what it considers the global and the local average of other projects. But what you need to know is that the main scoring dimensions for the energy are emissions, square footage, occupancy. So these are the informations that are able to drive the information and the score of the project. But again, I'm not going to spend too much time on energy because I already know that Alessandro has something to say about it. So let's go to the next category, that is water. Okay. Then let's go to the next page and let's see what it's water about. So this is a special project, I must say, and we faced issues since the beginning, but we were the first one, so we had to it. And we had to manage and to find a solution for all the projects that do not have a direct access to water within the LEED boundary. So within the project, the space of the project that has to be certified. So in this case, we had to deal with the old version that we use for every LEED IDNC new retail project. So we had to do it manually. So we didn't have, in this case, the chance to implement the cloud-based platform to push data into Arc. So we had to make the calculation. In here, you have exactly a print screen of what is the LEED calculation form that you have to fill in with the information on the water closets, urinals, and lavatory faucets. So what LEED requires to you is that you compare the information and the technical sheets of the water fixtures that you install in the project compared to what is the LEED baseline. And your target is achieving a reduction into it. And in this case, we had to use the restrooms of the mall to apply for this information, and we didn't have the chance to manage that much and to make any changes to what was already installed by the landlord. But anyhow, we reached a 40% reduction in consumption for water, and that's already a good result in this category. So let's move on now to waste. This you can see the recap, but let's move on to waste. So this is let's say a new category in this protocol. In the past, or in the other protocols, waste is a part of the material and resources category. But for for the existing projects, this category was to have its own main part. And this is very, very interesting because in this case, what LEED requires to you is to do an audit. So you have to pick up a date, you have to go on the store or on the space that you have to certify, and then you have to weight all the different kinds of waste that has been produced during that day in the store, and then analyze the diversion of the waste. So let's go to the next slide, in which you have a little bit of additional information on what we did. So you see pictures of the different kinds of waste that we had to weight. And then in the column and in the table, you have the information of the diversions of waste. So what I would like to underline that what we had to audit was related to 5 different kinds of waste. So glass, paper, plastic, cardboard, and the general waste that is not possible to be diverted. So what you need to focus on is the waste type that is more important in terms of weight. And in this case is cardboard. So if you consider a total weight of the waste of 12.5 kilos, 10.8 kilos of that 12.5 is cardboard. So that gives us the possibility to concentrate the strategy of diversion mainly to one type. and is cardboard, because that is usually in every retail project the type of waste that has the most importance in terms of weight. So in this case, we managed to get a great result. So we reached 5 points over 8 points that were available, just because we had the chance to concentrate on cardboard, and the diversion of cardboard was very, very, very high. So this is easy for retail projects. I would like to give you another point of view for a different kind of project. So let's talk about Starbucks. So we did certify their store, their coffees, and their roasteries. And in that kind of projects, the majority of waste is not cardboard, but is related to what is left of food and, of course, coffee. So when we tried the first time to work on this topic for Starbucks, then we didn't get really a good score into that because the possibility of diversion of that kind of waste was not that high. So then we decided together with them to put in place a composting system, and that was the key. Thanks to the composting, now for Starbucks, we are able to reach a very, very, very high number in terms of diversion. So it really depends on the kind of project you face. Then you have to find the right strategy in order to achieve, let's say, your target. But let's go now to another category, that is transportation. Again, transportation was part of another category in the other credit, in the other LEED certifications in here as his own work. And it's, again, a totally new approach that LEED gives to this category at the time. So in this case, what is very interesting, and we can see it on the next slide, is the fact that in order to get the score of this category, you need to fill in an anonymous survey online. And what is the survey about? You can see it right here. So here you have all the information related to the survey. So what LEED requires is that you fill in the information on the time and the type of public transportations or private transportations, but that is something that LEED doesn't like that much, that you need to reach the space or the retail project that we are certifying from your own home. And this is very interesting because it gives you the idea of how the space or the project that you are certifying is really well connected to the public transportation. So the request of LEED is to fill in the details for one way, one day. That's what you have to fill in. Then I would go to the last main category. That is very, very interesting and very important and very new. It's the human experience category. So this is all about comfort that you have and you feel in the space. So what mainly LEED requires in this category are different things, but let's discuss first the air monitoring that is necessary to get information on this category. So what you need to do is that beside of all the usual things that you try to monitor, temperature, humidity of a space, something that is quite average and normal. In this case, what we use for our project is a system called CLEAR, and that is able to record also other types of information like PM2.5, PM10, and the most important ones for LEED, the one LEED wants you to check and record, is the CO2 levels and the total VOC. So total volatile organic compounds. That is the emissions, toxic emissions. Toxic is a little bit strong word, but it's related to that stays in a space. So how does it work? First of all, you have to install monitors in the spaces, and the very important thing is where you have to install the monitors. So you have to do it in the breathable area. And that's why we have to monitor what you breathe. So it has to be in between 1.30 meters and 1.80 meters. And then in that area, you have to install the monitor, and the monitor takes the data and push them through the platform, to the cloud platform that is able to collect these data. And you can access the platform like the one that Wattics created directly from the laptop or from your iPad or from the app that you can download on your phones. So what I was saying is that the very new thing, and we can go to the next slide to have a little bit more information on how it works, is mainly the two aspects that LEED wants you to analyze and to check. It's the CO2 emission and the total VOC. In this slide, you have an idea of what it's about, total VOC, and how LEED works for this certification. So during the reporting period, of course, LEED takes the worst day, and then it gets the information on the worst day, and to that, it makes the calculation compared to the benchmark. In this case, we have the information on the day that was used, that was June 24th for the project. And this has to be filled in and checked with the benchmark that LEED has in order to give the score. On the next slide, you will find a recap of which are the information, because I missed one, that LEED requires for this category. So the total VOC is what we have seen. The CO2 level, it works exactly like the total VOC. So it's real data that, that you need to check and review in order to see which is the level of the space. And then another interesting thing is another survey that has to be filled in by the persons that are, of course, working and spending time in the space, and it's related to the level of comfort they feel into the space. So then I would say I would go to the next slide. Well, this is the same as every category. It gives you the information, but I would concentrate a little bit of the discussion on the results that we had on our project. So in here, you have an idea on which is the score for every different category within the certification, and then, of course, the benchmarking of every category. So what I can say is that the results we had were totally aligned with our expectations on categories. So for energy, what we need to underline is that the store was not recently renovated, and there were no strategies in place to reduce the consumption. So that's why, if you can see, it's probably the category in which we get the lowest number of points compared to the points available. But this is quite easy to be explained. Then talking about water, again, in this way, we had to use a manual approach, a little bit different compared to what we can do as of today, but that was a case, and that was a special one. For transportation, very easy to be understood that it's easy to get almost the maximum number of points, because the project is located in downtown Hong Kong and very easy to be reached by public transportation. For waste, same discussion we did before. Cardboard was the main one, was the easiest one, and is something that has been diverted in a very proper way. So that's why we got the maximum number of points, almost the maximum number of points in that categories. And then human experience. First of all, I need to say that in this case, we were talking about a high-end luxury store. That means that the concentration of people inside the space at the same time is usually quite low. We can compare that with a mass store like a H&M or Zara, in which you have a lot of people at the same time. So in here, it's very different. And also the store is quite large. It's 2-floor store. So then the possibility for the air to move into the space is very high. So that helps quite a lot to keeping the CO2 and VOC into the good range. But I would like to just give you at the end of the presentation one nice curiosity of it. When we talk about total VOC, it's very funny to see, thanks to the monitors that we have in place, when we go out of the good range of the total VOC. And then it happens 2 times. It happens during the cleaning of the store, because materials that we use for cleaning the store sometimes have emissions, and then we see it. And then when in the store, we receive packages. So when they have to open packages, then glues and everything that is being used to seal the packages gives emissions in the air, and then the emissions go high. But not worrying for this project, and not worrying for the majority of the project that have a good range target of total VOC, this usually happens not during the operating hours. So in that case, less people are there, and so no global issues in this case. So last thing that I would like to underline is that you have to know, and this is an information very important for you, that the benchmark that LEED creates for local and global projects is related to the projects that are on ARC. So in this case, usually ARC updates this information like every 6 months almost, and the most important thing, or at least the most important thing to be underlined, is that we were the first one. So then we have the feeling that probably, let's say, the benchmark was not that accurate. But of course, if we will have to done, and if you will have to do a new project today, then it will be even much more accurate, considering all the number of projects that are now into ARC and are pursuing or already received the LEED certification. So saying so, I hope I gave you quite a good idea of this case study and the information. And then I would now ask Alessandro to continue the discussion and get more in depth about what we did with Wattics and ARC for the energy system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francesca. Excellent job. So can everybody hear me and see me? Yes, I assume that's a yes. So building upon the success that we had with Prada Alexandra House being the first LEED version 4.1 project, we decided to undertake a bit of a special challenge and test this new integration that we have between Wattics and ARC. So we have certified a significant number of Prada stores, and we've also been hired to monitor energy performance in stores that were already existing that have no intention or no possibility of pursuing a LEED certification. So over the last 2 weeks, we decided to do a stress test on the Wattics Arc integration to try to get as much data as possible and derive some conclusions on what the ARC scoring and LEED scoring looks like for Prada projects beyond Prada Alexandra House. So before I go into looking at the data, just a bit of a background on how you do the connection between Wattics and ARC, and it's incredibly simple. So when you log into your dashboard, you go first into your admin tab, and then you'll see that there's an integration tab on the far right. You click that, and that takes you into all of the different options of integrators that Wattics has built. You see ARC there down at the bottom. You can click the pencil sign and you'll be asked to log into your ARC credentials. You obviously have to have ARC credentials with a project logged in before you can proceed. It then takes you to the integration piece where you can choose from the projects that are automatically pulled from the ARC account, and you see them all listed in your Wattics account, and you can select the one that you'd like to link. Then you have a screen that pops up that shows you all of the available data points in meters, and you have to link each data point or each meter one by one to the corresponding project in ARC. And when you click create, you can then go into your ARC page. This is a screenshot of what ARC looks like, and you'll see the associated data point or meter streaming data automatically to the corresponding data point in ARC that will generate the scoring, as I'll show you in a second. It does take a while for the data to populate, especially if you have a lot of historical data. So that's something to take into consideration. Don't be worried if immediately you don't see a score pop up. Sometimes it can take up to an hour, depending on how much data you have that is loading. So looking at the data, this slide shows the top 9 best performing stores that we put in through this stress test. On the left side, you see projects that we certified using the traditional LEED system called LEED IDC for interior design and construction. That means that we were involved from the very beginning of design and construction all the way through to operations. And then on the right side, you see regular Prada stores that did not pursue a LEED certification from the beginning. And the shocking results that you can probably see immediately is that the non-LEED certified stores consistently score higher for the energy performance category than the LEED stores. One of the reasons of this is that the non-LEED stores are traditionally much older. They're much more simple stores. They have significant less lighting in them. They have less AHUs. They have less computer screens. There's a lot less technology that draws power. They're more bare bones. While the new designs, and we see this across the board, not necessarily just with Prada, are significantly more energy consuming. And what we noticed as we started to build the data set of projects, the projects started scoring themselves against each other because the data set increased. So when you have these older projects that inherently consume less energy, we see a significantly higher LEED score than we do, or energy score than we do for LEED certified stores. So that was quite surprising for us to see. When we zoom in and we look at the highest scoring LEED projects only, we start to see some interesting things. So for example, we see a correlation that larger stores by size that make up a huge portion of the total energy components are scoring significantly less than projects that are smaller. So for example, Qingpu Balian, which represents only 4.5% of the total energy consumption of all of the LEED groups, is scoring a 71. While we have other ones like Foshan Outlet, which makes up 13.5%, that's scoring significantly less. So larger stores that consume more energy overall are scoring significantly less. And we see the exact same thing happening also in the data set for non-LEED certified stores. So we see, for example, Prada Suzhou Metro, that is, I believe, a total of 0.3% of the total pool of projects, which is scoring almost perfect scores at 90 total points in the energy category. And the inverse of that is true with the larger projects. So you see Wuhan International Plaza, which makes up 8.2%, one of the largest in this data set, scoring only 45 points. So a huge disparity in numbers. When we zoom in to just the top 10 scoring projects by comparison, this shows similar to the previous graph, but we're only showing the top 10. And we're starting to see some interesting outliers because we have projects like Chongqing WF, which makes up a large portion of this top 10 data set at almost 24%, which is scoring 78 points in the energy category. While we have Chengdu Yan'el, which is only 0.4% of the whole data set, which is scoring only 12 points less than that. So we see that there is quite a disparity in the jump of LEED scoring, which is not necessarily proportionate to the amount of energy consumption. Obviously, Chongqing consumes significantly more energy, but is only scoring 12 points lower. And the reason for this, and you'll see this later on in the presentation, is that the jump of point scores is not proportional. So it takes a significant amount of energy efficiency improvement to move to the next category of scoring. And sometimes you have this disparity of large energy consumption for a disproportionately smaller loss in total energy category scores. So this was also quite surprising for us. Now, what this slide is doing is it's comparing the top 10 and the bottom 10 non-LEED projects that are in this data set. And we immediately see that we start to have groups. We have groups in the 90s, 70s, and 60s for the top scoring projects, and we have groups in the 40s and in the 30s for the non-LEED projects. Now, we know that, again, these jumps are disproportionate. So there's not necessarily to say that a 12-point decrease is an equivalent amount of decrease in energy or increase in energy consumption in this case. But what we do expect, at least because there's such a large disparity, 90 points versus 45 points, we would expect that those lowest scoring projects do have overall, or at least on average, a higher energy consumption. And we see that in Wattics, and that's exactly what's happening. So when we take the average power consumption of the lowest scoring projects, we see that it's almost 3 times higher than that of the top scoring projects. We also then did some analytics based on kilowatt hours per square meters. And no surprise, we see that the non-LEED projects are scoring, have an energy use intensity much lower than the LEED projects. We do think overall that this is due to the fact that the non-LEED projects overall have a larger GFA than the data set that we used for the LEED projects, which is only 9 projects versus 39 in the non-LEED data sets. And we see similar results when compared to energy consumption by number of people inside the store. So a significantly higher portion of energy consumption for the LEED projects. And I think this fundamentally is due to what I mentioned before, and also some of the data being skewed because we have so many more projects in the data set for non-LEED. Another tool that ARC allows you to do is the comparison of greenhouse gas emissions by all your different fuel types. In our case here, we only had one single source of fuel type, which was electricity. And the annual emissions are based on that. So we see the cumulative amount in the non-LEED data set being over 4,000 metric tons, while in the 9 projects of the LEED data set is just over 1,000. When we take the average though, we see that the average is still higher, with LEED being 137 metric tons on average per project, and non-LEED was down to 125 metric tons. And we see that same data coming out for emissions per occupant. These numbers would change if we were to plug in, let's say, transportation data from the survey that Francesca mentioned, because the relative greenhouse gas emissions based on the distance and mode of travel would also have an impact on GHG overall scores. Now, we did see an interesting point that I wanted to point out. If we list the total greenhouse gas emissions by metric tons for LEED projects and non-LEED projects, and we list them out individually as it is in this screen, we see that on the LEED side, we have outliers that do emit significantly more, namely Plaza 66 and Florence Village, while the rest are comparatively really small. While on the non-LEED side, we see almost overall a higher amount of total metric tons emissions. So I believe that if we were to go back into the data and take a mode rather than a mean, we may have different results in terms of total GHG emissions. And then the final slide that I'll present, as I'm almost out of time, this is the detailed energy breakdown page within ARC. This is the Suzhou Machiro project example. And it shows you consumption over time, over months, your energy score and how it changes throughout the time of the year. Again, how you compare based on global average and local average. But on the bottom, it also allows you to do a limited amount of modeling. And what that means is you can predict how your score would change if you were to improve your energy efficiency. And you can see that it's basically 1 additional point for every 10% saved in energy. So when you consider a store with already limited resources in order to be able to save energy, trying to achieve an extra 6 points by saving 30% in energy consumption is quite difficult to do, maybe borderline not feasible. So I do think that there is a bit of a disproportion between energy consumption and energy saving and the related individual category score for energy. And I think the reason for that is based on the amount of projects that are participating in ARC. As more projects participate, the overall score resets itself with a new baseline, and the scores will be more standardized. So I hope you found that very interesting. I think this stress test definitely raised more questions on our side than answers. And we will be following up with more in-depth analysis. But one takeaway has been that by looking at this data and looking at energy consumption and LEED scoring, which is the fundamental baseline for what we define sustainability in green buildings to be, it allows us to help our clients look at how they can be more sustainable at volume. So looking at masses of projects together rather than just looking at individual projects. And there's a lot of power in that data. And I think that that's what this exercise has brought forward for us. So I'll stop there. I know we don't have any time left, but if there's any questions, please let us know. Francesca and I are looking forward to answering them.
Thank you both, Alexandra and Francesca. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy. I'm the marketing manager here at Wattics. So we've gotten some really nice, interesting questions coming through throughout the presentation. So I'm going to dive right in over here. So the first question is there a cost difference between using ARC to certify a building or going the traditional way?
No.
Okay.
The product to direct, sorry. No, it's the same.
Okay. I'll move right on then to the next question. Is the strategy for improvement put in place after 1 year of monitoring, or is there an initial assessment to see where the building stands and then progressing while monitoring? And the question is for LEED projects in general.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think the power of ARC is that you can generate a LEED score before you submit for certification. So the way that the tool is intended to be used is that if you have an existing project, you monitor the data, you start to get your score, and then you look for ways to improve. And then respectively, your score improves. And then when you're ready, when your average over the 12 months is at optimal peak, then you submit for certification. There is no way to use ARC in projects that are under construction. So this is really strictly just for operations and maintenance. So the philosophy of LEED is that it wants to cover the entire life cycle of a project. So you would use LEED ID&C, which stands for Interior Design and Construction, to maximize the sustainability impact of the design and construction process. And then you can utilize O+M in order to improve the operational efficiency of a project. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, then there's a follow-up question. Are there any particular requirements on the system to be used to monitor energy? And this is specifically referring to hardware requirements. So
Francesca mentioned in the beginning, so in terms of, from a LEED ID&C point of view, you have to monitor energy sources that are above 10% of total consumption. So anything that's more than 10% of the total needs to be subdivided. For LEED O+M, the requirements are significantly less because you just need to monitor total energy consumption per project. So obviously we use different meters or different sized meters, I would say, between an ID&C project that requires the breakdown and a project that's only doing LEED O+M that only requires the total energy consumption.
Yes. Okay, thanks, Alexandra. We have a bit more of a technical kind of installation question over here. What happens when we install air quality monitors near return air ducts or vent?
Well, we follow a protocol called reset, which I encourage everybody to Google. It's an indoor air quality standard, also a certification, an optional certification that kind of governs where you position your monitors. And it goes much beyond the basic LEED requirements of positioning between 1.3 to 1.8 meters on a wall. You have to stay away from return air ducts. You also have to stay away from any purification systems. You want to sample as many places within the space as possible, which is incredibly difficult to do in a luxury retail setting, because normally we would want to monitor the front of house, but the front of house wall space is obviously reserved for product. So we had to basically figure out ways to monitor the back of house, but as close to the entrance as possible to the front of house, and then strategically place the monitor so that we can get an adequate sample size for air quality. But there's definitely a margin of error, I think, by not having some of the front of house measurements. But we definitely stay away from any return air, recirculation, or standalone freestanding air purification devices.
Okay. Then moving on to greenhouse gas emission calculations. Does GHG emission calculation consider country-specific emission factors? Which source does ARC use?
I'm not sure about which source it uses. I can search that, but yes, it is country-specific. It's country-specific, and I believe it also takes temperature variations into account. But I don't know the details about the GHG scoring.
Okay. And then a bit more broadly, given the pandemic situation that we are in at the moment, and that people are expected to work more from home, will there still be a push for the building sector to pursue LEED certification?
Yes, absolutely. We've seen a tremendous rise and increase on especially our indoor air quality monitoring services, because everybody's very concerned. And you know, this is off topic for this presentation, but there's a lot of elements of what we're monitoring that has to do with virus transmission that's often overlooked, namely humidity. Humidity has a massive impact in the ability for a virus to transmit airborne. So having these monitors placed can help mitigate that in real time. I think LEED also has now released a health and wellness kind of additional section that aims at targeting you know, health and wellness in spaces. And then always there's the well building standard, which is a sister certification to LEED, which only looks at health and wellness and designing for health and wellness inside spaces. And there's a lot of elements within WELL that are COVID mitigation strategies.
Okay. And then going back to LEED O+M certification, should we achieve a certain level of real energy or water savings to get certified, or only have the monitoring system in place and energy audit to start working on improving efficiency?
No, well, this is related to every kind of LEED certification. So you have to install the monitor because you need to have the data, but of course there is a limit that you have to reach in order to apply for the certification. So the requirement is not only having monitors, it's also a performance requirement that you have to fill in. So yes.
Okay. There's a couple of more questions coming in here. So I'm going to have a look at the final few questions coming in here, and then we will have to close the session. Which energy modeling software is much efficient for LEED modeling?
The most used is eQuest, but we tend to use Energy Plus because it allows more flexibility in terms of the assumptions that we can make in the model. but I would say that globally, the easiest and most used is eQuest.
Okay. And then is there any technical criteria to complete LEED certification?
As a person or as a project?
As a project.
As a project. Well, there's a lot of, there's a lot of categories for LEED certification. The ones that we covered today are for O&M, so for operations and maintenance. There are significantly more requirements for new build projects, whether it's an interior renovation or a completely new construction, new building project. If you have another 4 or 5 hours, I can go through them. Yeah. So there are quite a bit, but if you go on usgbc.org, there's a lot of publicly available information that goes through some of the technical requirements. But I think if you're asking if there's any minimum requirements for certifying under O&M, the answer is no. There's no particular minimum requirements. It's just restricted to commercial related spaces. You, as far as I know, you can't certify an interior apartment, a residential apartment.
Okay. Then I'm going to go to our final 2 questions. Is the ARC platform accessible for all LEED accredited professionals, or is there any requirement in order to access this platform? There
is no requirement to access the platform. You don't need to be a LEED AP. You can create an account on your own. You can go to arcscore.com or .org.
Yeah, arcscore.
And you can access it. In fact, using the platform without needing to do certification is free. So if you do have a project that is using Wattics and you're monitoring energy consumption and you want to know how that project is scoring without proceeding to doing a LEED certification, you can do that for free. You only pay if you want to proceed with the review to do a LEED certification. So it's quite an open system.
Yeah, it's a huge possibility that now we have, because that was not available before. So I suggest people to log in and start browsing around to make to have a bigger overview of what it's possible to do that.
Just a note on that, we will be making some extra resources available to attendees after the webinar. So we'll include those resources. And then finally, have you done any LEED projects in the Middle East region?
In which region?
Francesca, I'll let you do that. Middle East.
Middle East, yes, of course. I celebrated also my birthday there, but that is not a part of this webinar. Yes, of course, yes. Mainly in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, in Qatar, in Dubai. Yeah, different projects there. Yes, we're very active there. And LEED is a standard that is very considered for that specific region. So we have a huge number of projects there. So if you need help, we will support you also there.
Can I encourage everyone on the call, if you would like to inquire more about the services that we offers, to get in touch with them directly. I know that we will also be sending some communication around to opt into their communications. So please do go and check out their website, follow them on social media. We will make a direct link to Alexandra and Francesca after this webinar. Final question. What is the time frame in general to certify an existing building for LEED O+M?
12 months. Because that's the minimum amount. So you need to have 12 months of data. Now, if you have a project that already has 12 months of data, you could theoretically certify it immediately. So let's say that I start a project, Wattics has already been monitoring the data for the past 12 months. I have an air quality meter that already has the data for the past 12 months. I could do the ASHRAE level audit, the documentation, the waste audit, all really in a day or in a couple of days, and then you can submit the project almost immediately. The review times from GBCI, which is the reviewing body, those vary. There's a lot less review that is involved in an O&M project, but we always budget to be safe 3 months for the reviewers, the judges, to look at the data, analyze, and then come back with any questions or certify the project immediately.
Okay, thanks, Alessandro. Thank you, Francesca. I think we're going to leave it there. I did see some other questions coming through, but we will be providing the answers after this webinar. We have unfortunately run out of time today, but can we just say a big thank you to B Incorporations. Thank you, Alessandro. Thank you, Francesca, for your time and your availability to share this case study with us today. And to Antonio, any final comments? I'll leave you to close the session.
Okay, Amy, thank you very much. So first of all, I'd like to thank Francesca and Alessandro. Their expertise is great. It's been a kind of a super project across so many countries, not easy to manage, but you have the resources and you have the capacity, so it's great. And yeah, so keep it going. I hope you will get some good contacts out of these webinars. There've been a lot of people interested from different parts of the world, and I'm sure kind of conversation will continue offline, and we'll make the material available to everybody that has been attending this workshop. And also we will publish, and Amy will publish online some step description, or step by step, how through Wattics we can connect and push data to the Arc platform. And we are all welcome. We welcome you guys to send us feedback about the webinars if it has been good. You know, it's very good to get feedback from the attendees. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of the day or the evening, which part of the world you are. And thank you very much. So I hope to see you next time again. Okay, thanks Alessandro, thanks Francesca.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.